Now with me, I have to announce the next speaker, and I'm really pumped up to announce her. She is Liora Itkin. She's the head of cybersecurity defense department for the SOC team and also for the digital forensics investigators and incident response team of Israel Ministry of Defense. She's a skilled in fields of cyber attacks, malware analysis, threat hunting, cyber analysis, networking, and system. Being the head of such a prolified foundation, she is a revered example of women leadership and an inspiration to all women of the world. I'm pumped up and excited to invite her to take over the session and give us a speak on how we should treat a cyber event from the Ministry of Defense. Over to you, Lyra.
Okay, so hello everyone. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, just a moment. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Liora Itkin. I will talk to you today about cyber event. How do we treat it? How do we manage it in professional way, in the right way? A little bit about me, a little background. I'm head of cybersecurity department in the Israel Ministry of Defense. I have two teams. I have SOC team and digital forensics investigators team. We'll talk about them separately. So that's it. Let's begin. If you have any questions during my presentation, please ask me anything. If something is not understood, if any concept is not understood, please just ask. That's fine. So my talk topics will be about, first, we'll talk about the SOC team, what is the purpose and what is the goal of this team, what is SIEM systems, the definition and the infrastructure, cyber event circle, how do we manage this complicated cyber event, how do we manage it in the right way, how do we indicate the malware, what are my indicators, malware analysis, how do we analyze malware, what is the methods and the tools to do so, and at the end, your questions and references. Now let's discuss a little bit about SOC. SOC is Security Operating Center. It's a team usually built by 5 to 6 team members. Sometimes it's even 10, it depends on the organization and its needs. The purpose and the goal of the SOC is to detect, analyze, respond to cybersecurity incidents. The main purpose is really to do this. The SOC analyst, this team member has its SIEM system. We'll talk later about what it means. And the SOC analyst needs to see the alerts that come on the SIEM system and to investigate them and try to understand what is happening. Do I have a real cyber event or it's something that is maybe false positive? We need the eyes on the field, as we say, and we need to understand exactly what is happening to our organization. What is SIEM system? So SIEM system, SIEM means security incident and event management. The SIEM has a couple of roles. First, collect data from sources. We have different sources that we would like to get different data from. All our main assets in our network, we would like to get those logs and those this data to get into our SIEM system. After we did that, we want to aggregate this data. We want to take this whole data and aggregate it together so the SOC analyst can try and work with this data and get to build those alerts. And then to get a full system, after the SOC analyst has built those alerts, the SIEM purpose now is to discover and detect those threats and let the SOC analyst really know that something happened. Then we want the SIEM to identify breaches and investigate alerts. Now, when the SOC analyst saw that there is something is happening, there is an alert, we want the SOC analyst to really investigate those alerts and get to know if there is something that is real, there is an attacker in my network, or it's just false positive. Usually it's a lot of false positive that is happening, and it's also that the SOC analyst job to really try to minimum try really to make at least not a lot of false positive, but really to find a real attacker and make those false positive not a lot. A little bit about the SIEM infrastructure. We have our event sources. We have firewall, network devices, servers, endpoints. Everything that creates logs in our network, we would like to get to collect this data, to collect those logs and get this into my SIEM. So how do I do that? I take specific connectors that connect to the event sources. I connect them into the event sources. And then when I connect them, I can get all of the data from the different event sources to my specific server of the SIEM. The server of the SIEM contains all the data of the SIEM, all the logs. And then from this server, we get all our security alerts to the terminal of the SIEM or specific and unique dashboard. We can also transfer this data to forensics analysis database. This is also an option really recommended, but this is not the SIEM. This is like a different sandbox made for investigating the forensics of the data. Really recommended. A lot of organizations do that today, but this is not the SIEM. So how the SIEM dashboard looks like, this is just an example. There are a lot of companies that build those SIEM systems, and the dashboard looks different from any SIEM system and also work differently, but this is just an example. As you can see in the SIEM dashboard, you can create new rules, you can create new alerts. Alert and rule, it's almost practically the same. You can create a template. You can see down the page, you can see tag categories. This is your event sources. You have devices, endpoints, anything that you connected a connector to. And you can see the alerts. Let's take for an example, the first alert we see on the dashboard. We see critical account logon failures. What does it mean? Well, I haven't built this SIEM dashboard, but I can assume what does it mean from this name. Critical account. Critical account means an account with privileged permissions. And the SOC team of this dashboard, they tagged specific critical account, and they said this critical account is very critical. It has really privileged permissions. If someone tries to break into this account, tries to log on many times, this can indicate that maybe I have brute force attack on my organization. Brute force attack is an attack, a well-known attack that the attacker tries to get into different accounts in my organization by just guessing the password. It can be guessing like 2-3 times, and can be really 1,000 times of guessing until at some point the attacker might succeed to get into my network. So we don't want the attacker to get into my network at all, at any time, but we specifically don't want the attacker to get with a really sensitive and with privileged permissions to my network. We don't want this to happen. So the SOC team, they made a good decision to build an alert on this subject. They made an alert that that shows you that someone tries to log on to this privilege permission account, this critical account, many times, and this one failed a lot of times, and it can maybe indicate a brute force attack. The rest of the alerts I won't pass, but of course you can ask me anything later or now. So the cyber event circle, what do we do when we face a real-time event? As I said, on the SIEM, we see a lot of alerts every day. Most of them will be false positive, will be something legitimate a user did or the systems did, but we see it as a cyber event. But what do we do when we know that now we have an attacker? First, we will start with the identification. The SOC analyst, as I said, he or she, the team member, sits in the SOC and identify that there is alert and we need to investigate it right now. After an investigation on the logs and the data of the SIM, we detect that there is something suspicious, there is an attacker, and we detect what it's doing. The attacker maybe the attacker has a malware in my system, or maybe the attacker ran just really suspicious commands on my server. After we detected what the attacker is doing and where he is right now, so after we detected it, we want to respond. What does it mean? This is a really, really tricky phase in the cybersecurity event management. The person who runs this really complicated cyber event, that leads it and manages it, needs to make a tough decision. We need to understand if we want to block the attacker, we want to block the user or the computer of the attacker, or maybe we want to let the attacker move on with its activities to maybe see what does he do and how he responds to things and how he does all this. So this is a really tough question. It doesn't have an answer. It really depends on the situation. And at the end, we would like to recover the network. Our main goal in cyber event, it's very important to understand that we want to recover our network and clear it from the attacker as soon as possible. Imagine a scenario where you come to your workplace and all the computers are locked down. No one is working. So it's a huge financial damage to your organization. And as cybersecurity people, we need to bring the work to the people as fast as possible. So this is really the main goal, to recover our network. Now let's discuss a little bit digital forensics incident response team. What is the purpose and their goal and their important role in this complicated situation? So the main focus of digital forensics investigations is to recover objective evidence of criminal activity. On a server or a computer or any device in our network, we have a lot of evidences of what the attacker did. And we need this team to investigate it even deeper. The difference between the SOC analyst, the SOC investigates what's happening on the SIM system, on the data on the SIM, on the logs. Here, those investigators, the DFIR, they go to the server or the computer and investigate it even deeper, not based on the SIM logs. So the main question here that needs to be asked, what are we looking for as the digital forensics investigator? What do I look for? What do I need to find to say there is something suspicious in here? So we have indicators. Indicators are items that indicate a computer has been infected. We have two types of indicators. We have network indicator. This is something that can be found also on the SIM system by the SOCs, but usually, and also not usually, we can find it also on the computer or the host that's been infected. So what is network indicator? Can be any suspicious connection in your network. It can be connection to a known IP address, connection to a known DNS address, anything that is not normal, any connection that is not normal. Also, we have the host indicator. It's specific items on your OS that can indicate your computer is being infected. So what does it mean? If there has been a change in the important OS files, such as an example as host. Host file is a file that comes before the DNS server of your organization. So if someone changed it, it can be really suspicious. It's not supposed to be changed. This is just an example. There are a lot of important OS files that you should be following always and monitor. Change in registry key values. The registry is the main and the heart of the Windows OS. In the registry, everything is happening. Every software, everything that has ran on your computer is documented in there. So as a digital forensics investigator, you would like to get this registry and investigate it really deeply, because all your evidences, almost all of your evidences are there. Everything that ran, you can find the evidence in there. Change in the memory values in the RAM. The RAM every software runs also in the RAM. So if there was any change in the memory values, you would like to know. It's a very interesting evidence. There are a lot of different evidences. This is just really 3 examples, but this is a beginning and a really good start. A little bit about malware analysis. So as a digital forensics investigator, I would like to take the malware and try to investigate it the best way I can and the deeper way I can. This is the keyword to malware analysis. We have a lot of methods, a lot of tools. So we have the basic static analysis. It's the basic static analysis. It's when you run, basic static analysis is when you don't run the malware, you look only for the strings. All those methods, you can do it together. You can do it step by step. Usually you do it step by step, but you can also sometimes skip to different method, different tool. It really depends on the malware and on the tool. So basic static analysis, it's just strings. You don't run the file. You only look for the strings because the strings can give you some clues about what the malware is doing. So after you did that, you maybe want to move forward to basic dynamic analysis. You want to run the file in an intended sandbox. You don't want to run this file on your network. You don't want to infect it even more. So you take the malware and you move it, you copy it to an intended sandbox, then you run it. And in the background of your computer, you run the sysinternals tools. In one sentence, what is sysinternals tools? You can read about it deeper later. One sentence, it's tools. Those tools are made and developed by Microsoft to Windows environment. So you can analyze and detect and troubleshoot anything that happens on your computer in live. So when you run this malware, you can open those tools in the background and really investigate what happens to your computer when you run the malware. After you did that, you can do advanced static analysis using the disassembler such as IDA. IDA is a perfect tool to do reverse engineering of the malware, to really go deep into this code and analyze what is happening and what the malware is doing, what its capabilities in the deepest way. It's an amazing way to really get to know all the capabilities of the malware, and it's really difficult. It's very challenging. My workers, they study it a lot of time to really get to understand it because it's assembly. Knowing assembly language is very hard. It's not Python. It's really hard because sometimes it's even binary. So you really want to know how to use this technique. And the last one, advanced dynamic analysis, using a debugger, running line by line your malware code. So you take the debugger and you run it really line by line to get to know all the steps of your malware and to understand what is the steps and what it's doing really line by line. As I said, usually you do all of this step by step, but sometimes in really specific situations, we would like to jump right into the advanced static analysis because we know that we need it right now and we don't have time to waste on just strings or sysinternals tools. And sometimes we know that we don't have to really break our heads on advanced static analysis with IDA. We can really find the solution on basic dynamic analysis. It really depends on the difficulty of the malware. So that was my talk. Thank you all for listening. Any questions and references? I'm yours. I see a question. Which certification you recommend for stock analysts? So a certification, you mean professional certification for a worker? Yes. Yes, okay. So I recommend really a cybersecurity practitioner. I did this course. I don't know. I think that there is it's also international certification. Almost sure, but in Israel we do a cybersecurity practitioner. Amazing. Really like the course. Really gave me all the tools I need. You're welcome.
I think that's all the questions are. If there's any other questions, please do put it up in the chat or the Q&A. So with that, I would like to thank you, Liora, for explaining us thoroughly how to treat a cyber event from the view of SOC and digital forensics teams and about malware analysis and its tools. Thank you so much for such an insightful session. And we, ShaktiCon, as a team, is grateful to have you here as a speaker. And we hope that you join us again for our future events. And from the team of ShaktiCons and all the attendees, I'm trying to say thank you in Israeli, in Hebrew. I hope it's okay. Toda Reba, thank you so much for being here.
Actually, Liora, we will be meeting again at 11:30 in a half an hour for our panel discussion as well.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
Okay. So
thank you, everyone. I really like the talk. I really believe in those organizations that help women to move forward and to go to technological positions. I know it's not easy. I'm a woman too. It's not easy. It's really a men's club, and it's still a men's club. And I'm really glad to be here and to talk with you all. We will meet in the panel. Thank you.